All right, now corporations. Now, what happens here with corporations is you have a sole proprietorship or you got a partnership, a smaller business, and they're growing and they've gotten to a size where they want to expand and they want to expand rapidly. However, in order to do that sort of expansion, what you need is money, and they don't have enough of it. Now, they don't have enough on hand, it's going to be too long in order to save up, and it's more than what banks are going to be willing to loan them, which is what you would normally do, and they can't find other investors to throw the money at them. So what they'll do is they go public. Okay? They incorporate. They become a corporation. They create a corporate charter, and on a particular day, they will have an IPO. It's called an initial public offering. And on the IPO day, they will sell stock in the company. And selling stock in the company means that they sell ownership in the company. So people out there on the stock exchange, and there are many different stock exchanges. We always think of the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ, but there are other ones. But they sell that stock, and people on the stock exchange will then buy that stock from the company. Well, just like anything else, they buy that stock with money, and that money will go to the company. And the company then is able to use that money to expand the business the way that they want to. Okay, so the purpose of going public like this is in order to get money to expand. And there's a little bit of risk involved, right? I mean, if you're the owner of this business, you go public, you're selling ownership in the company, and you're selling some of your profit also, right? You're giving it away to other people now instead of you getting it all yourself. It's a risk, but it's a calculated risk. You're hoping that by doing this and expanding the business, you'll make even more money than what you were able to do before. All right? So it can be a little bit of a difficult thing here in order to do this. It can take a year or more. You have to have lawyers and accountants. There's legal stuff that has to be gone through. There are government regulations you got to meet. There are new government agencies you may have never heard of before that will now have a say in how things operate. You have to be public and transparent with your finances in a way that you weren't required to do before. So there's more involved, right? It's not like it's going to be an easy thing to become a corporation. Now, as a corporation, they act as an artificial person. They can buy and sell real estate, they can do various things, donate political campaigns, whatever. Right? This is known as a legal fiction when the corporation is an artificial person. Yeah, and some people don't like this, especially in politics. It's become kind of an issue. But the reason it acts this way is that a corporation is really nothing more than an organization of people engaged in a joint enterprise. Yes, it's a for-profit entity, but how do you differentiate that necessarily from non-profit entities, say the Rotary Club or North Texas Food Bank or something like that? All right, so it's kind of hard to distinguish it just because it's going to be a for-profit. The other aspect is that the rights of the individuals who make up the corporation do not suddenly go away simply because they have organized themselves as a corporation. So they're considered to be a artificial person in a manner of speaking. Yep. So I like this map right here. This shows you the largest corporation by revenue in each state, at least as far as where they're headquartered. So if you look at Texas there, the biggest corporation headquartered in Texas as far as revenue goes is ExxonMobil down there in Houston with $226 billion in revenue per year. And that's dwarfed a little bit there by Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas, with $486 billion. If you've ever been to Bentonville, they have fantastic biking, especially mountain biking. They even have a little museum where the first Walmart was, and you can learn all about Walmart and Sam Walton. And yeah, okay, maybe that doesn't interest you, but it is a cool little downtown area. So you can look at that and see where some of these other things are. Berkshire Hathaway, that's Warren Buffett's company up there in Omaha. Yeah, all right, moving on. Okay, now you have different types of corporations. One of them is called closely held corporation. This is where there's stock in the company, but it's closely held. Usually the stock is only owned by a small group of people, usually family members. So one family will own all the stock in the company, and the stock is passed down within the family. Hobby Lobby is an example of this. It's technically a corporation, but all the money, or excuse me, all the stock is owned by the Hobby Lobby family. I don't remember what their name is. Yep. You also have publicly held corporations. This is what you usually think of when you're thinking of corporations. This is where the stock is out there on the stock market. It can be bought and sold, right? And you can do this if you want to. Get yourself E-Trade or one of those other stock trading accounts. And you can go out there and buy and sell stock to your heart's content. All right. And what are the benefit to you of owning stock is, first of all, well, buy low, sell high, right? Buy it for a cheaper price, sell it later on when the stock is worth more for a higher price. Clear a capital gain for yourself. Another way is what they call dividends. When the corporation makes a profit, that profit will be divided up amongst all the shareholders. So each share will get a little piece of that, and they're talking on the intercom. But I'm just going to keep going because I'm dedicated to this. So let's say there's 1 million shares of stock. The corporation has $1 million in profit. That means that each share will get $1 in profit. So if you own 10 shares, you get $10 in profit in that form of a dividend. Okay. This graphic here shows you the largest companies by revenue as of 2019. This is globally, by the way. This isn't just U.S. So some of those ones like Sinopec, that is a Chinese petroleum company. So, shows you all sorts of people. I'm kind of looking around my camera here to see some of these. You see this one, Saudi Arabian oil company. Yeah, big profit, guys. This one right here shows you the biggest corporations by market cap. Market cap or market capitalization is the total value of the company. How much the overall company is worth. So you see Apple there is worth about $1.5 trillion. That's trillion there, folks. That's a $1,576 billion, or $1.5 trillion is how much Apple is worth. Microsoft not too far behind there. Amazon has been accelerating here in 2020 because everybody's buying stuff online. Some people are speculating that Amazon might be the first $2 trillion company. Yep. Ooh, and then you can see some other ones there. You got Alphabet, Google, Facebook, Tencent, Alibaba, which is like the Chinese Amazon, etc. So you can look at all those guys. Okay, now there are other types of corporations. We're not really going to worry about these too much because they're not what we cover normally, but I was just throwing it out there so you know this is what they are. The corporations we normally think of are called C Corps. There's also a different type of corporation called an S Corp. An S Corp is a pass-through entity is what they call it. Basically, it is something where only businesses with under 100 employees are able to do this. And it is where partners will organize as an S Corp for tax advantages. The money only gets taxed twice as personal income for the owners. However, the owners are not exposed to the same legal liability as what you would with, say, a general partnership. So an S Corp is a special type of corporation that is usually for smaller businesses. In fact, when these were established, S Corps have taken off. You saw a decline in C Corps and an acceleration in the number of S Corps that were formed because of the tax and liability advantages for the owners. There's also limited liability corporations, LLCs, which are a little bit different from S Corps, but same sort of deal, right? Tax and liability advantages. But we're not going to worry about those types of corporations. Now, advantages of corporations, first of all, it's easier to raise money, right? You can sell the stock at the beginning anyway. Normally, if you were to go into the stock market and you buy and sell stock, you're buying stock not from the company, but from the stock that other people already own. So if you buy the stock on the stock market, that money's not going to the company. It would only be if the company releases new stock, new ownership, only then would it bring in the money. Yeah, but it's easier to raise the financial capital, especially when you want to expand. They're also able to sell bonds, which is a special way of borrowing money. That's another way corporations can raise funds. They can hire professionals. So instead of you trying to make all the decisions yourself, you can hire a chief executive officer, a chief operating officer, a chief financial officer, right? These corporate executives who are going to be knowledgeable and hopefully be able to run the company maybe even better than what you could have. There's limited liability for the shareholder. So if I'm a shareholder, I own stock in the company, and the company goes under, the company gets sued, well, nobody can come after me. Creditors can't come after me for the debt that is still owed them or any of that stuff, right? Or if somebody sues the company, they can't come after me, right? Yes, I own a chunk of the company, but I'm not responsible for the company, right? I'm just a little reedy-poo shareholder. The corporations have unlimited life, right? So the stock is there, and the ownership is so widely divided up among so many people that the corporation is almost impossible to die unless it actually goes bankrupt. It's easy to transfer ownership. I can sell the stock in the stock market to somebody else or pass it down to my kids. And you can raise the money through selling bonds. I already talked about that. Now, disadvantages of being a corporation. First of all, it's difficult and expensive to start. And you generally don't start as a corporation. You usually start as a smaller business and become a corporation later. But to become a corporation is an involved process that has lots of legal fees and whatnot. Shareholders don't have very much say in how the business is run unless you own a whole lot of stock. I mean, if you own, say, 10, 20, 30% of the stock, well, okay, then you have a little bit more say in the company because you own a lot of stock, especially if that's voting stock. But because the corporation has to keep you happy when you own that much. But if you're just, somebody like at my level, and no, I own 100 shares of a company, nobody cares. All right, so I don't have any say in how the company is going to be run in that case. Now, the double taxation. This is the big thing. Corporate profit gets taxed twice. First of all, it gets taxed once as corporate profit, and then when that corporate profit is paid out to the shareholders as dividends, well, for the shareholders, that becomes personal income, which means it gets taxed again as personal income. So corporate profit gets taxed once as corporate income, and then gets taxed again as personal income. All right? And what that really means is the shareholders are really paying both sides of that. It's really the shareholder getting taxed twice because they have to pay both sides, right? They have to pay the corporate profit tax, income tax, because if it wasn't for that, they'd be getting that money. So really, that's coming out of their pocket. So this is one of the big disadvantages, is corporate profit is going to get taxed once as corporate income, and again, it's personal income. Government regulation is going to be a lot heavier on corporations as far as the rules they got to go to, including accounting rules and information they have to release. And there's lots more scrutiny on the corporations, what you would have with smaller businesses, sole proprietorships, and partnerships. And you also have separate ownership and control. The owners of the corporation, that would be the shareholders, are separate from the people who run the corporation, that would be the executives. One of the reasons that oftentimes executives get stock options, which means they're just given stock by the company, is to motivate them to raise the stock price. Because if the stock price goes up and the company does well, that means that they get more money if they want to sell the stock a later time. Another big disadvantage is this is how many people view the corporations. They're just these evil entities out to destroy the world or something like that. I don't know. Corporations, again, are just made up of people. Some of them are maybe bad actors. Some of them are worse than others. But lots of corporations actually aren't large at all. We always think of the Amazons and the Walmarts when we think of corporations. But there's tons of corporations out there that are teeny tiny. You've never heard of them. And they're making less money than sole proprietorships and partnerships are. So here, if you want to pause on that, it has everything nicely listed as far as advantages and disadvantages of those corporations. This shows you right here. The blue shows you the amount of revenue that each one of these businesses makes on a per minute basis, and then the red bar is the amount of profit. This is a couple of years old, but I still like to leave it up there. So what it shows is Walmart makes about $900,000 in revenue per minute, and that's about how much profit they make per minute. So far, far less. So their profit margin, the percentage of the revenue that is profit, is 3.6%. Now, you go all the way down here to like Apple and Google, man, they're pulling down over 20% profit margin. That's pretty massive. It shows you another illustration of the same concept. This shows you, I posted the same thing twice. One of these was supposed to be how much they make per second. Oh, well. But this shows you how much they make per minute. So you see Google, all right, the revenue and the profit that they bring in. You got Facebook, Twitter. Here you got Apple. Every single minute, Apple makes $71,000 in profit. As you have been watching this so far, let's see. Oh, my goodness, this has gone off for 14 minutes. Let's see. So that would be 14 times 71,288. And the time you've been sitting here watching this, Apple has made $3.1 million in profit. And you're still just sitting here. Oh, same sort of thing, so you can pause if you want to look at it. It shows you the revenue and the profit. This shows you the general organization of a corporation. You have the shareholders who own it. They appoint the board of directors. Board of directors appoints the executives, and it flows down from there. And we'll stop there, and we'll cover mergers and franchises last.